Okay, so in this video, we're just going to demonstrate how we do a sealant. And so what I've got is I've got a tooth that we've taken out. Some things that you'll notice about this tooth is that it is a molar and it's got some pretty deep grooves here. So you can just see the groove. We don't necessarily see a lot of staining in there, although you can definitely see that those grooves are pretty deep. What we know is that a toothbrush is only a bristle is only so thin, and it cannot get all the way down to the depth of that. So that's where a sealant comes in, and the purpose of a sealant is similar to caulking around a sink or a bathtub. The idea is that it will allow us to fill in these areas, these cracks and crevices, and make it so that it's easier to keep everything clean so you don't get leakage and whatnot around it. Okay, so the first thing we want to do, because there's these deep grooves, then it's easy to get what I like to call tooth mud. Okay, so you get bacteria, you get some food particles, you just get kind of sludge that hangs out inside of the groove. And so the first thing that we want to do is we want to remove that. There's two main ways that we do that. One of them should generally be done by the doctor, and that's using a fissurotomy burr. So it's a specially designed burr you can see here that is very, very pointed, and the idea is that we would just come along here, we would just open up that groove just a little bit, and at the same time as we're opening that up, then it's also cleaning, not just because of the water that's spraying through there, but physically we're debriding it. Think of that kind of like using a sponge or a brush when you're cleaning your dishes. The idea is that it's physically debriding that so that we get a nice clean surface, which allows us to bond to that very, very easily and get a nice strong bond. Okay, and we're really not doing anything irremediable when we're doing this. We're really just debriding in there and opening up that groove to make it just a little bit easier to access. Okay, so that's the first way. The second way is to use an air abrasion unit. Okay, but the idea here is that this is kind of like a mini sandblaster, and so from this tip it's going to spray some water and sand, and it's just going to debride that area. And this air abrasion unit can be filled with aluminum oxide, or it can be filled with sodium bicarbonate. Sodium bicarbonate is baking soda, and that's the preferred one. So with that air abrasion unit, we're just going to make sure that there's a nice flow of powder and water here. And so you'll see there's a little bit of water there. We'll just kind of take that off. But we just run this through, we just run it, and you'll see that it's just kind of debriding in there. And it mainly looks like water, but there is some air in there. If we totally turn off the water, you'll see a little bit more of a glassy, icy appearance there. And the grooves just there's a little bit less stain. So now we've gone through and we've debrided that. So the first step that we would do is we would use acid etch. Okay, and then with the bicarbonate, with the air abrasion, what we're going to do is apply the blue etch to these surfaces, and we're going to let that be for 20 seconds. And the idea, I was using aluminum oxide in this case, but the idea is that when we apply that with bicarbonate, you'll actually see it bubble, very similar to the volcano experiment. So baking soda and vinegar is typically used when you do volcanoes as in an elementary school, and that's the same process that will occur here. Okay, so we allow that to be on there for 20 seconds, and then we are going to rinse that off. Okay, we would come back and we would etch again. So just applying this, we can spill over out of the grooves if we want a little bit, but mainly we're sticking to the pits and fissures, and then we're allowing that to sit for 20 seconds, and then we will remove that off. Okay, so at this point, what we've got is we've now removed the mud and we've etched the tooth, and if you look real careful, you can definitely see that there's a little bit more of a frosty appearance to that enamel, and that's the work of both the air abrasion and the etch to make it so that we get some spikes that form on that tooth. we want our sealants to be very, very dry. So what we will use is prime and dry, and its job is to desiccate, so to make it really, really dry. Essentially, it's an alcohol solution. So as we put that on there, you'll see that we just kind of rub that in. You'll see that we just kind of spill it over. That's priming the surface, and it's also drying the surface. So we allow that to be on there, and then we will just dry it off. And you'll see that that really dries. It removes any of the water there and makes it so that it is very, very dry. And then what we're going to use is then our sealant. So the way that we apply this is we push on the plunger and we get a little bit of sealant. You can see that there's a brush on there, and then we're just going to brush that in to the grooves. So we just come and apply this, paint it in, and then it's so thin that it just sits there and it will fit into the cracks and crevices and kind of mold. And then we're going to cure this for 10 seconds. And then when you come and look at this, then you'll notice now we don't have a groove. Instead, we've got this nice glassy surface. To me, it feels like we're just ice skating across the surface. And then that's gonna make it so that food debris doesn't get into those nooks and crannies as well. Awesome. Generally, there's no need to adjust these. The idea is that the pit and fissure sealant is designed to stay inside the grooves because it will flow into those grooves, the pits and the fissures. If we get any areas up here onto the occlusal surface that is abrasive areas, the sealant will not stay, so they will just gradually wear that away as they eat over the next couple of days, so that it just ends up staying inside of the pits and the fissures. Thanks, guys.